Captain William Grant stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship and took a deep breath. The massive alien ship that had just entered Earth's orbit was unlike anything humans had ever built. It gleamed like polished metal under the sun, stretching nearly 3 miles long with strange bulges and spires that seemed to defy conventional physics. "Status report," Grant said, his voice calm despite the tension that filled the room. Lieutenant Samantha Powell looked up from her console. "The alien vessel has established a stable orbit, sir. They're broadcasting some kind of signal on all frequencies. Our computers are working to decode it." Grant nodded. Humanity had prepared for this moment for decades, but theory and reality were very different things. First contact with an advanced alien civilization would change everything. "We've got a partial translation," announced the communications officer. "They call themselves the Zoraxians. They're requesting to speak with Earth's leaders." Within hours, a delegation was arranged. Grant and Powell joined the diplomatic team led by the United Nations Secretary General. The meeting location was a neutral facility at the International Space Station, hastily prepared for the historic encounter. The Zoraxians who emerged from their shuttle looked almost human, except for their bluish skin, enlarged eyes, and the strange ridges on their foreheads. Their leader, who introduced himself as Ambassador Kraxel, wore an elaborate uniform covered in symbols that probably indicated his rank and achievements. "We are pleased to finally make formal contact with your species," Kraxel said through a translation device. His voice sounded mechanical but clear. "We have observed your civilization for some time." Grant felt a chill at those words. How long had they been watching? The Secretary General welcomed the visitors and began the formal introductions. When Grant's turn came, Ambassador Kraxel barely acknowledged him. "Ah, a military man," Kraxel said with what seemed like a smile. "How quaint. Do those little ships we saw in orbit represent the best of your defensive capabilities?" Powell stiffened beside Grant, but he placed a hand on her arm to keep her quiet. "We maintain what we need for our security," Grant replied simply. Kraxel made a sound that might have been laughter. "Of course. Very sensible." He turned back to the Secretary General. "My civilization has traveled the stars for thousands of years. We have encountered many young species like yours. The universe can be a dangerous place for primitive civilizations." The Secretary General maintained a diplomatic smile. "We are eager to learn from more advanced civilizations, but I wouldn't describe Earth as primitive." Kraxel gestured to the space station around them. "This structure uses combustion metals and silicon-based computing. By our standards, this is the technology of children." He paused. No offense intended, of course. As the meeting continued, the Zoraxians presented their proposal. They offered Earth protection in exchange for access to certain resources, minerals primarily, but also biological samples from Earth's diverse ecosystem. They spoke of membership in their galactic alliance, but the terms sounded more like colonization than partnership. "We will need time to consider your proposal," the Secretary General said when Kraxel finished. "Of course," the ambassador replied. "Take all the time you need. Perhaps a tour of our vessel would help you understand the benefits of our protection." Later, as the Earth delegation prepared to board the Zoraxian shuttle, Powell leaned close to Grant. "They think we're helpless," she whispered. "Did you see how they looked at our technology? Like we're cave people with sticks." Grant nodded slightly. "Let them think that for now." "But sir, the Phoenix Project, the quantum shield, remains classified," Grant interrupted firmly. "Remember your orders, Lieutenant. The Zoraxians don't need to know everything about us just yet." As they boarded the alien shuttle, Grant couldn't help but wonder if humanity's secret preparations for this moment would be enough. The Zoraxians clearly saw Earth as primitive, barely worth their respect. That misconception might just be humanity's greatest advantage. The Zoraxian shuttle glided smoothly through Earth's atmosphere. Inside, Captain Grant watched Ambassador Kraxel study Earth's landscape with mild interest, like a tourist visiting a less developed country. "Your cities are quite orderly," Kraxel said, though your reliance on fossil fuels is unfortunate. Grant exchanged a quick glance with Powell. The Zoraxians had no idea that most of what they were seeing was carefully staged. The shuttle's flight path had been precisely calculated to show only what Earth wanted the aliens to see. 3 days had passed since first contact. The Zoraxians had established a temporary embassy in Geneva and begun what they called their formal assessment of Earth. So far, they had shown interest only in civilian infrastructure, power plants, transportation systems, and communication networks. They seemed particularly unimpressed by Earth's internet. Our assessment team requires access to more of your facilities, Kraxel announced as they landed at a government airfield. Particularly your defense systems. General Linda Harrison met them on the tarmac. She wore a simple military uniform with minimal decorations, another calculated decision. "Welcome to Joint Base Andrews," Harrison said. "I'm authorized to show you some of our military capabilities." Kraxel's expression remained neutral, but his assistant, a military advisor named Commander Zeth, seemed eager to see what humans considered weaponry. The tour began with a display of fighter jets, tanks, and artillery, all deliberately selected from older models still in service. Nothing cutting edge, nothing that would reveal humanity's true technological level. Combustion engines, metal projectiles. Commander Zeth could barely hide his disdain. "You still use solid ammunition. It works for our needs," Harrison replied calmly. Later that afternoon, Grant met with Dr. Eric Martinez in a secure underground facility 20 miles from the base. This facility didn't appear on any maps shown to the Zoraxians. "They're doing exactly what we predicted," Martin said, pulling up data on a holographic display that would have shocked the Zoraxians if they had seen it. "They're underestimating us by design." "How can you be sure?" Grant asked. Martinez pointed to surveillance footage of the Zoraxian ship. "We've been passively scanning their communications. They're reporting back to their fleet that Earth is right for, well, not conquest exactly. More like absorption into their empire." Powell entered the room, carrying the secure tablet. "Sir, I've been researching the historical database they provided as a cultural exchange. I found something they probably didn't intend us to notice." She placed the tablet on the table. It showed images of different alien species and star systems. The Zoraxians have a pattern. They find worlds they consider technologically inferior, offer protection, then gradually take control of resources and eventually governance. Some species are practically enslaved, though the Zoraxians call them protected member states. Grant studied the images. "How many worlds?" 17 that I could confirm," Powell answered. "All of them thought the Zoraxians were peaceful until it was too late." General Harrison joined them, her expression grim. "The President has made a decision. We continue the deception. Let them think we're primitive. Meanwhile, we activate the Artemis Protocol." "That's a big step," Martin said quietly. "Once we bring those systems online, the Zoraxians might detect the energy signatures." "Not if we're careful," Harrison replied. "Dr. Martinez, how long would it take to fully deploy the quantum shield?" 48 hours for complete coverage. But once it's active, there's no hiding it. Grant looked at the images of subjugated worlds on Powell's tablet. "And if we don't deploy it?" "Then we risk becoming number 18, Powell said. Harrison nodded decisively. "The Zoraxians have requested a demonstration of our most advanced weapon system tomorrow. We'll show them the laser defense platform. It's impressive enough to satisfy their curiosity, but outdated enough to maintain our cover." "And if they're not satisfied?" Grant asked. "Then we hope the Artemis Protocol is ready before they realize what humanity is truly capable of," Harrison replied, her voice steady, but her eyes revealing her concern. The next day dawned clear and bright. At a remote desert testing range, Earth officials prepared to show the Zoraxians what they believed was humanity's most advanced weapon system. In reality, it was technology that had been declassified nearly 15 years ago. Ambassador Kraxel and Commander Zeth arrived with a small team of Zoraxian scientists. They wore lightweight environmental suits, claiming Earth's atmosphere contained too much nitrogen for comfortable breathing. "Welcome to White Sands Testing Facility," General Harrison said as she greeted them. "We're honored to share our defensive capabilities with you." Kraxel nodded politely, but his eyes showed only mild interest. Commander Zeth seemed more alert, studying everything around them with sharp attention. Captain Grant stood nearby with Lieutenant Powell and Dr. Martinez. They watched as military personnel prepared the demonstration, a laser defense system designed to intercept incoming missiles. This system can track and destroy multiple targets simultaneously, Harrison explained as they entered the control bunker. "We consider it quite effective." "Fascinating," Kraxel said in a tone that suggested the opposite. "You still rely on focused light beams. Our young ones learn to build such devices in their education pods." The demonstration began. On screens inside the bunker, they watched as target drones launched into the sky. The laser system tracked them, firing bright beams that cut through the air and destroyed each target with precision. 98% accuracy, Harrison announced proudly. "Impressive. For your level of development," Commander Zeth said. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Security personnel rushed to their stations. "What's happening?" Grant demanded. A security officer responded immediately. "Unauthorized vehicles approaching from the north. Sir, 3 trucks moving at high speed. They've broken through the outer perimeter." Harrison turned to the Zoraxian delegation. "Please remain here. We have a security situation." On the monitors, they watched 3 black trucks speeding toward the facility. Armed figures in the back of each vehicle fired at the security checkpoints. "Terrorists," Martins whispered to Grant. "The Union of Human Purity. They oppose any alien contact." Grant nodded grimly. These extremists had been threatening action since the Zoraxians arrived. Now they were attacking during the most sensitive diplomatic moment possible. Outside, security forces engaged the intruders, but one truck broke through, heading straight for the main testing facility. The driver seemed intent on ramming the building that housed the laser system's control center. Commander Zeth watched with increasing interest. "Your security seems inadequate." Grant could see the situation deteriorating rapidly. If the terrorists reached the control center, people would die, both human and Zoraxian. A diplomatic disaster was unfolding. From the corner of the room, a man in a plain uniform stood up. Agent Frank Miller had been quietly observing the demonstration, posing as part of the security team. "General," Miller said, "permission to deploy countermeasures." Harrison hesitated, looking at Grant. This wasn't part of the plan, but people were in danger. "Do it," she ordered. Miller pulled a device from his jacket, small, black, fitting easily in his palm. He made a quick adjustment and pointed it toward the approaching truck. A barely visible pulse erupted from the device. The truck suddenly died, rolling to a stop as all its electrical systems failed simultaneously. The terrorists' weapons similarly went dead in their hands. In the sudden silence, Ambassador Kraxel stared at the small device. "What was that?" "Portable EMP," Miller said casually, as if it were common technology. "Electromagnetic pulse. Disables electrical systems within a targeted radius." Commander Zeth stepped forward, his interest no longer concealed. "May I examine this device?" "I'm afraid that's classified," Harrison said. "But it's just a simple pulse weapon," Kraxel said, confusion in his voice. "How did you focus it so precisely? Why didn't it affect your own systems?" Grant smiled slightly. "We have our methods, Ambassador." Commander Zeth looked at the humans with new eyes. For the first time, doubt showed on his face. Back aboard the Zoraxian ship, Commander Zeth paced the command deck. The incident at the testing facility troubled him deeply. He replayed the recording of the small device that had disabled the terrorist vehicle without affecting any other electronics in the area. "This technology contradicts our assessment," Zeth said to Ambassador Kraxel. A targeted electromagnetic pulse of that precision requires understanding of quantum field manipulation. Kraxel waved his hand dismissively. One surprising device doesn't change the overall picture. Their main defense systems still use basic laser technology. What if they're hiding their true capabilities? Zeth pressed. The humans have been unusually accommodating, showing us exactly what we asked to see, no more and no less. Kraxel considered this. You may be right. We should demand access to all their military installations. No more guided tours. On Earth, Captain Grant met with the United Defense Council in a secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was lined with technology far beyond what the Zoraxians had been shown. The incident wasn't ideal, General Harrison told the assembled leaders, but the damage is contained. The Zoraxians saw only the portable EMP device, nothing else. But they're suspicious now, Powell added. She had been monitoring Zoraxian communications. Commander Zeth is pushing for full access to our military facilities. The Secretary of Defense shook his head. That cannot happen. The Artemis Protocol is still being activated. Key components are exposed. Dr. Martinez brought up a holographic display showing the global defense system's status. Glowing blue lines connected points across the planet, currently at 62% completion. We need another 48 hours, Martinez said. Then the quantum shield will be fully operational. The Zoraxians won't wait that long, Grant warned. Not now that they've seen a hint of our true technology. As if confirming his words, an urgent message came through. Ambassador Kraxel was requesting an immediate meeting with Earth's leaders. 2 hours later, Grant stood beside the Secretary General as they faced Kraxel and Zeth in the Geneva embassy. The Zoraxian ambassador's typical condescending smile was gone, replaced by a stern expression. In light of recent security concerns, Kraxel began. The Zoraxian Confederation requires immediate and complete access to all Earth military installations and weapons technologies. The Secretary General maintained a calm facade. That would be an unprecedented breach of our sovereignty, Ambassador. Your sovereignty exists because we allow it, Zeth said coldly. We have protected 17 less developed civilizations. We can protect yours as well. Grant heard the threat hidden in those words. Powell's research had revealed what protection really meant. We respectfully decline, the Secretary General replied. Kraxel's eyes narrowed. Then we must reconsider our approach to Earth, for your own safety, of course. After the meeting, Grant received an urgent alert. A Zoraxian scout ship was approaching a restricted area in the Pacific Ocean, the location of a key Artemis Protocol installation. Grant contacted the Pacific Fleet Command. The Zoraxians are testing us. Issue a verbal warning only. The warning was transmitted. The Zoraxian ship ignored it, continuing its approach toward the hidden underwater facility. Grant made a difficult decision. Deploy the Perseus defense system. Warning shot only. From a seemingly ordinary research vessel nearby, a beam of blue energy shot upward. It passed just in front of the Zoraxian ship, missing by mere feet. The energy signature was unlike anything the Zoraxians had seen on Earth before. The scout ship immediately halted its approach. What was that? General Harrison demanded when Grant reported the incident. A directed energy weapon using quantum phase technology, he replied. Nothing like the lasers we showed them. Harrison's face grew grave. The deception is over. The Zoraxians now know we've been hiding our true capabilities. Grant nodded. And soon they'll want to know what else we've been hiding. The Zoraxian flagship pulsed with angry red lights as Ambassador Kraxel and Commander Zeth reviewed the sensor data from their scout ship. The energy signature of the human weapon had left them both stunned. Impossible, Kraxel muttered. This energy pattern suggests quantum-level manipulation. They shouldn't have this technology for at least another century. Zeth's expression hardened. They've been deceiving us from the beginning. Those outdated weapons they showed us were props. A performance. But why? Kraxel wondered. Why pretend to be less advanced? Because they were studying us. Zeth replied grimly, just as we were studying them. On the main deck, Zeth addressed the Zoraxian crew. Prepare all weapons systems. Send a message to the fleet. We may need reinforcements. Back on Earth, the United Defense Council gathered for an emergency session. The chamber was tense as Captain Grant delivered his report on the warning shot incident. The Zoraxians have gone silent, he concluded. No communication for the past 12 hours. But their ship has changed position. They're now in a high orbit that gives their weapons optimal coverage of our major cities. General Harrison stood up. We can no longer maintain the deception. Dr. Martinez, what's the status of the Artemis Protocol? Martinez pulled up the latest data on the room's holographic display. 87% complete. We've accelerated deployment, but we need another 12 hours for full coverage. We may not have 12 hours, Powell warned. I've detected increased energy readings from the Zoraxian ship. They're charging weapon systems. The Secretary General looked grim. Then we must buy time. I will request a meeting with Ambassador Craxel. To everyone's surprise, Craxel agreed to the meeting, but insisted it take place aboard his ship. After much debate, the Council reluctantly approved, sending Captain Grant as Earth's representative alongside the Secretary General. The Zoraxian shuttle picked them up from Geneva. As they approached the massive alien flagship, Grant saw additional Zoraxian vessels had arrived. 5 warships now orbited Earth. Ambassador Craxel met them in what appeared to be a command center. His usual diplomatic smile was gone. Your deception ends now, Craxel said without preamble. We know you've been hiding your true technological capabilities. This changes the terms of our relationship. The Secretary General remained calm. We showed you what we felt was appropriate, just as I'm sure you haven't revealed all your capabilities to us. The difference, Zeth cut in, is that we offer protection. You appear to be preparing for war. We are preparing for survival, Grant replied, just as any species would. Craxel's expression darkened. Here are our new terms. Surrender all military technology to Zoraxian control within 6 hours, or we will be forced to neutralize your defense capabilities, for the good of all. After returning to Earth, Grant rushed to the mountain facility where Chief Engineer Alan Reeves was overseeing the final stages of the Artemis Protocol. We're out of time, Grant told him. The Zoraxians have given us an ultimatum. 6 hours. Reeves wiped sweat from his brow. We need at least 8 for full deployment. But, he paused, thinking. We could activate the system at 95%. It would leave gaps in coverage, but it might be enough. Do it, ordered General Harrison, who had joined them, and prepare our defense fleet for possible engagement. In a secure briefing room, Harrison revealed to Earth's leaders what they had been hiding from the Zoraxians. Holographic displays showed weapon systems and defensive technologies that had been developed in secret over decades. The Artemis Protocol isn't just a shield, Harrison explained. It's an integrated planetary defense system combining nanotechnology, quantum computing, and dark energy manipulation. Technologies the Zoraxians believe are centuries beyond our grasp. And our ships? Asked the president. We have 50 vessels hidden in underground bases and lunar facilities, Grant replied, each equipped with stealth technology and weapons specifically designed to counter Zoraxian defenses. The Secretary of Defense looked troubled. Will it be enough? Grant exchanged glances with Harrison before answering honestly. We're about to find out. 5 hours passed. On the Zoraxian flagship, Commander Zeth grew impatient. The humans are stalling, he told Ambassador Craxel. They've made no preparations to surrender their technology. Instead, we detect unusual energy signatures across their planet. Craxel nodded slowly. Then we must demonstrate our resolve. Prepare a strike force. Target their defense facility in the Pacific, the one our scout ship discovered. And if they resist, Zeth asked, then we will show them the difference between a civilization with advanced technology and a truly advanced civilization. Beneath the Rocky Mountains, Captain Grant stood in Earth's true command center. Unlike the outdated facilities shown to the Zoraxians, this room hummed with technology. Holographic displays showed the positions of every Zoraxian ship. Lieutenant Powell monitored communications while Engineer Reeves worked frantically on the Artemis protocol. Energy spikes detected in the Zoraxian fleet, Powell reported suddenly. They're launching ships, a strike force of 5 vessels heading toward the Pacific installation. Grant turned to General Harrison. They're not waiting for their deadline. Harrison's face was grim. Status of the Artemis protocol. 93%. Reeves replied without looking up from his station. Still need 40 minutes for minimum operational capacity. We don't have 40 minutes, Grant said. The strike force will reach the Pacific facility in 12 minutes at their current speed. The president, who had remained in the command center during the crisis, stepped forward. Then we show them what we have now. Authorized defensive measures. Grant nodded and opened a secure channel. This is Captain Grant to all Earth Defense Fleet vessels. Operation Reveal is now active. Repeat, Operation Reveal is now active. Across Earth, hidden facilities began to open. In the Atlantic Ocean, massive underwater doors slid apart as ships rose from concealed bases. On the far side of the moon, vessels that had remained hidden from Zoraxian sensors powered up their engines. The Zoraxian strike force approached Earth's atmosphere, their sensors still showing only the primitive defenses they expected to encounter. Commander Zeth himself led the attack, confident in their superior technology. Begin descent, he ordered. Target the underwater facility. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout his ship. Sir, called his sensor officer, something is happening. Before their eyes, a shimmering field of energy became visible across Earth's upper atmosphere. What had been invisible to their sensors was now manifesting as a semi-transparent barrier encircling the planet. What is this? Zeth demanded. The Zoraxian ships attempted to push through the barrier, but found themselves slowing as if moving through thick liquid. Their engines strained against the resistance. Quantum-level particle field, reported the science officer. It's interfering with our propulsion systems. From the moon's surface, previously undetected launch bays opened. Small human vessels emerged, their designs unlike anything the Zoraxians had seen before. Not the clumsy rockets or primitive space planes they'd been shown, but sleek ships with no visible engines. In the command center, Powell reported with barely contained excitement. The Lunar Defense Fleet has launched. 24 ships on intercept course with the Zoraxian strike force. On the main screen, they watched as Earth's hidden fleet moved with impossible speed, surrounding the Zoraxian vessels that struggled against the partial quantum shield. Their ships are so small, the president observed. Size isn't everything, Grant replied. These vessels were designed specifically to counter Zoraxian technology. We've been preparing for this possibility for decades. The voice of Admiral Ryan came through the communication system from the lead Earth vessel. Strike force surrounded, awaiting orders. Grant looked to the president, who nodded solemnly. This is Captain Grant. Disable their propulsion and weapons systems only. We want to send a message, not start a war. As they watched, the Earth vessels fired precise energy bursts at the Zoraxian ships. Each shot targeted specific systems with surgical precision. In his command ship, Zeth watched in disbelief as his strike force became dead in space, unable to move or fire weapons. His own vessel's engine shut down from a precisely targeted electromagnetic pulse, unlike any he had encountered before. Impossible, he whispered. How could they have technology this advanced? A communication request came through from the lead Earth vessel. On his screen appeared Captain Grant, now wearing a uniform very different from the simple military attire he had shown before. Commander Zeth, Grant said calmly, I believe we need to talk. Ambassador Kraxel stared at the holographic display in shock. His strike force had been completely neutralized in less than 10 minutes. The human ships moved with a speed and precision that should have been impossible for such a young species. This cannot stand, he said, his voice cold with anger. "Prepare the main fleet for battle. We will show these humans the full might of the Zoraxian Confederation." Aboard his disabled command ship, Commander Zeth was speaking with Captain Grant through the emergency communication system. "You deceived us," Zeth accused. "Everything you showed us was a lie." "Not everything," Grant replied calmly. "Just the extent of our capabilities. We've been watching the stars for centuries, Commander. We saw what happened to other worlds that revealed their true technology too soon." "You knew about us before we arrived," Zeth realized. Grant nodded. "We detected your observation vessels 20 years ago. We've been preparing ever since." Their conversation was cut short as the main Zoraxian fleet began to move. 15 massive warships descended toward Earth, weapons fully charged. In the Mountain Command Center, Powell reported urgently, "The Zoraxian fleet is moving into attack formation. Energy readings indicate they're preparing to fire on major cities." "Artemis status," Harrison demanded. 97%, Reeves replied. "The shield is stabilizing, but still has gaps." Grant's voice came through the communication system. "I'm returning to command. Admiral Ryan will handle the disabled strike force." Minutes later, Grant entered the command center and took his position. "The Zoraxians are committed to demonstrating their superiority. They won't back down without a fight." "Then we give them one," Harrison said, "but on our terms." The President gave the final authorization. "Initiate Artemis defensive protocols. Deploy all remaining ships." Across Earth, the rest of humanity's hidden fleet emerge. From underwater bases, mountain hangars, and desert facilities, 40 more vessels joined those already in orbit. But unlike the massive Zoraxian warships, the human vessels were small, swift, and nearly invisible to standard sensors. As the Zoraxian fleet approached, they fired a devastating first salvo. Energy beams powerful enough to level cities streaked toward Earth. But they never reached their targets. The Artemis shield, now at near full strength, absorbed the attacks completely. "Return fire," ordered General Harrison. "Non-lethal measures only." Earth's fleet moved with astonishing coordination. Instead of meeting the Zoraxians head-on, they executed complex maneuvers that confused enemy targeting systems. Each human ship fired precisely calibrated pulses that disrupted specific systems on the Zoraxian vessels. Lieutenant Powell directed a squadron of the smallest human ships. These craft, barely larger than fighter jets, slipped through gaps in the Zoraxian formation. They released clouds of nanobots that attached to the hull of the alien vessels, disrupting their shield generators. In the command center, Dr. Martinez monitored the battle. "The Zoraxians are using standard combat formations, exactly what we predicted based on their historical records." "They've never faced an enemy that studied them before fighting," Grant observed. On the main Zoraxian flagship, chaos reigned. Systems failed across the ship as targeted electromagnetic pulses disabled weapons and engines. Artificial gravity flickered on and off. "How are they doing this?" Craxel demanded. "Their weapons aren't even damaging our hulls. They're just disabling everything." The science officer looked up from his console. "Their technology isn't following normal development patterns. They'd focused entirely on precision and efficiency rather than raw power." One by one, the Zoraxian warships went silent, their weapons and engines disabled by carefully targeted attacks. Not a single ship was destroyed, but none remained combat effective. In the Earth Command Center, a cheer went up as the last Zoraxian vessel was neutralized. "All enemy ships disabled," Powell reported. "No casualties reported on either side." The President nodded with satisfaction. "Open a channel to Ambassador Craxel. I believe it's time for new negotiations." On the main screen, Craxel appeared. His usual confidence was gone, replaced by confusion and a reluctant respect. "How?" he asked simply. "How did you develop such technology without us knowing?" Grant stepped forward to answer. "Because we chose a different path. Your civilization built bigger weapons. We built smarter ones." 3 days after the battle, Ambassador Craxel stood in Earth's true defense headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. Gone was his condescending attitude, replaced by genuine curiosity as he studied the advanced technology around him. "You could have destroyed our entire fleet," Craxel said to Captain Grant. "Why didn't you?" "That's not who we are," Grant replied simply. "We developed these technologies for defense, not conquest." General Harrison led the Zoraxian delegation through the facility. Commander Zeth examined everything with keen interest, especially the holographic displays showing Earth's defense network. "You knew about us decades ago," Zeth said. "Our observation ships were not as stealthy as you thought." Harrison finished for him. "We detected unusual radiation patterns in 2005. It took us years to confirm they were artificial and not natural phenomena." In the main conference room, the President of the United States and the Secretary General welcomed Craxel and the Zoraxian Leadership Council, who had arrived to negotiate new terms between their civilizations. "We've been studying your civilization since we identified your observation ships," the President explained. "We saw what happened to other worlds that revealed their true capabilities too soon." "You mean our protected worlds," Craxel said carefully. "We mean your subjugated worlds," Powell corrected, displaying evidence gathered from the Zoraxian historical database. 17 civilizations, all following the same pattern. First contact, assessment, then gradual takeover under the guise of protection. Craxel had the grace to look uncomfortable. "Our intentions." "Your intentions were clear," Grant interrupted. "But now we have a chance to start fresh. A genuine alliance instead of subjugation." Engineer Reeves joined them, carrying a small device that he placed on the conference table. "This is a sample of our quantum field technology, the same technology that powers the Artemis shield." Dr. Martinez added, "We're prepared to share some of our advancements with the Zoraxian Confederation in exchange for true partnership." Craxel looked genuinely surprised. "After we attacked you, you would still share your technology?" "We believe in building bridges, not walls," the President said. "Your civilization has much to offer as well. Your faster-than-light travel is still more advanced than ours." Over the next several hours, the foundations of a new relationship formed. The Zoraxians, humbled by their defeat but impressed by humanity's restraint, agreed to new terms of equals rather than protectors and protected. Later, Agent Miller accompanied Commander Zeth on a tour of Earth's security systems. "Your approach to warfare is unlike anything in our records," Zeth admitted. "Minimal force, maximum effect." Miller nodded. "We learned from our own history that bigger weapons don't win wars. Smarter ones do." "And you hid this knowledge deliberately," Zeth mused. "A species that can conceal its true nature is a dangerous one." "Or a cautious one," Miller countered. "History is filled with stories of more advanced civilizations destroying less advanced ones. We weren't going to let that happen to us." Meanwhile, in a laboratory deep within the mountain complex, Engineer Reeves worked alongside Zoraxian scientists to integrate their technologies. "Your quantum field manipulation is remarkable," said the lead Zoraxian scientist. "But combining it with our faster-than-light drive could revolutionize interstellar travel." Reeves smiled. "That's the point of cooperation. Together, we can achieve more than either of us could alone." As the day ended, Captain Grant and Ambassador Craxel stood on an observation platform overlooking Earth at sunset. "You know," Craxel said thoughtfully, "in all our years of exploration, we've never encountered a species quite like humans." "How so?" Grant asked. "Most species either show all their capabilities at once, hoping to impress, or they truly have nothing to hide. You were different. Patient. Calculating. You let us underestimate you." Grant nodded. "Sometimes the best defense is to let others think you're not a threat. A lesson the Zoraxian Confederation won't soon forget," Craxel acknowledged. "We thought humans were primitive until we saw your weapons. Now we understand that true advancement isn't measured by the destruction a civilization can cause, but by the wisdom with which they wield their power." As night fell over Earth, the first joint humans-Araxian project began. Not a weapon, but a new type of exploration vessel that would carry members of both species to the stars.